I'm Graham,
And I'm Corinne.
and
And
we
we
are
are
Too
too
Talented. All right. Thanks for joining us on Too Talented, yet another podcast where we introduce to you concepts in the hiring market for job seekers, for hiring managers, for recruiters,
talent acquisitions.
the multitudes of talent acquisitions. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
How's it going with you? Because you got a lot of stuff going on. You're all excited because there's a lot of activity in the world of Stride staffing.
There is indeed, yes. So yeah, I have multiple jobs that I'm working on right now. I'm working on an HR director. I'm working on a VP of technology and AI, and then another senior manager / director of digital transformation in AI, and then another kind of AI type role for another client. So dovetails nicely into what we will be talking about today. But when I say AI, some of the things that I'm working on are pretty interesting, and I think once I start describing some of this stuff and kind of you chiming in on it, it'll help people get an understanding of what the market is starting to do with AI in terms of creation of jobs.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that. It's it's pretty cool. Finally it's happening, and starting to have some possible deals out there, and have actual money coming in, and it's
The 900 emails you sent in December let's finally starting to come through
yes,
and pan out.
a
And
lot
the
of work.
networking events you've been going to like couple a week at least, it seems like.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's awesome.
yeah, it's been a lot of work, but it's
Yeah.
starting to pay off, and that's really exciting. And it just means a lot. Having my
Yeah.
own business, have to, every piece of it that I'm doing outside of owning it, which
Mhm.
you're doing, but all kind of the orchestration of all the interviews, opening interviews, debriefing, interview prep, everything is kind of on me. So it's exciting to kind of watch it have some level of success.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how was you?
Yeah, good. Just working, running. We did a Women Can event, which was really cool. Kind of the small REI focused woman who works for REI who came to a previous Women Can / Women in Ultra Running event. Really likes the brand and wanted to use the money she got in a small grant from REI to host like a kind of just a close knit group of REI workers, women, and talk about like, but she wanted it to be Women Can focused. So I was kind of, I don't know, like kind of a moderator, not really a moderator, but just like we were using the brand as the platform to help them talk through goals and creating their own confidence charts, which is something that you did for me a long time ago.
That's right.
So that was really fun. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's neat.
So yeah, it's going well, and we've both been doing a lot of running lately.
Yeah.
Couple of big weeks and weekends, and I'm very excited to have a rest day today because I did not have one last week. I ran all 7 days of the week, which I usually don't do. But because of other activities, had to do a long run on Monday. So started and ended with 17-mile runs, actually.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a
but
lot.
72 miles and 9,000 feet of climbing in 11 hours for me last week, which was the big one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've got your big race coming up in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Desert Rats 100K, 2 weeks. And you're also racing on that same day,
Yep.
but 20.
2 miles-ish.
Oh, is it like 30? No,
It's not an
it's not a
anything.
K. It's not in anything. There's no distance.
It's like 21.7, I think, exactly.
Okay.
So it's not really like a specific distance.
Interesting.
But it's cool because it's close. And it's on trails that I've never raced on, although I've spent a lot of time on them over
Yep.
the past month or so. It's kind of rolling terrain,
Mhm.
but it'll be fun to be able to run fast on it. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to race in a race that's really close to the house, and be
Yeah.
able to wake up at a normal hour.
And we are hoping we get our race kits in before those races
Yeah, from
from Aravipa.
yeah, absolutely.
Shout out Aravipa. Yeah. Race season is among us.
It's upon us.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Hold on 1 second.
All right, now to jump into kind of the topic for today, which is kind of a new skill. It's not that new, but it is new to you, new to me. It's basically kind of So I'm going to call it, and like I put this in ChatGPT to help me kind of like put together an itinerary for this, and I always do it. But it's titling it the AI application, which I don't like the word application because all of a sudden it makes me think of like software
Mm,
development application, and it's not that. So it's basically instead of like being able to train an LLM, which I surely could not do. I have no idea what that would entail or like the machine learning behind it. It's none of that stuff. It's really the expertise around someone who understands a particular function within a company. Let's say finance, and who also understands the different workflow optimizations that they could maybe do to enhance efficiency within the company. So a number of companies are starting to look at this as a new skill set that they're looking for. So someone who is, let's call it a baseline technologist, someone who's got a lot of technology experience, and then some experience supporting a particular function, let's say finance, and who can go to the finance group and say, okay, here's all the workflows that you do. Here's like the, I don't know, 50 things that you guys do. Here's the 5 that are kind of low hanging fruit that we could kind of optimize using AI or some type of machine learning or efficiencies. So that's kind of what we're seeing now. But I'm now working on my 4th position in the past 2 months that encapsulates that. So it's also beyond kind of helping them select those tools. It's also some of the training around it. So
mm,
how do they help? How do you help someone who doesn't really know that much about AI, but does know a lot about their job? How can they incorporate the tools that they're talking about into their job to actually make them more efficient? So it's not
mhm.
just a selection of tools,
Yeah.
but it's then an implementation and then making sure that the company is really leveraging it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and one of the, like, most simple examples you mentioned to me is someone who, like, is an expert at a ChatGPT or
Hmm.
at a Claude, or um, one of the major AI tools
Yeah,
to then train the employees of the company on how to use it in the right way for their own job or how to best use it, like, best practices
right.
around it. So then that almost even brings in, like learning and development, which is kind of traditionally like an HR type function.
Definitely.
So it really like crosses over a lot of different things. But are you seeing them as standalone jobs within a company that they're hiring for, or are you seeing it as going back to the finance example? You're hiring, say, a VP of FP&A, and then they need to have knowledge around the FP&A AI opportunities or automations? Or is it like also like almost do you know what Kaizen is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember like we
Yeah,
did a
like
whole
Six Sigma.
yeah, we did like a whole Kaizen like, I don't know, there was like a initiative
It's like
where
process improvement.
process improvement,
Yeah.
where we did this way back at level 3 where we were trying to improve like the HR function. And so we went through every different component of HR, and you identify the gaps and where processes can be improved and all of that. It's almost like that you're when you were describing it, it sounds like that, but then add the technology layer into it
Yep.
and saying which of these things that are part of our current process in XYZ department could we automate? Should we automate or not? It like, yeah, is it kind of like that too?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think this can come in a whole lot of different flavors. With the first ones that I've seen out there, they're looking definitely for like a technologist, someone who really understands technology, maybe who could do some light coding, scripting, that type of things to make some of these processes, like some of these AI tools work, like kind of help implement them
Mhm.
and then get them going. So there is a level of they want a comfort level with technology overall.
Mhm.
But I think as this goes along, and as AI tools become a little more ubiquitous, you may start to see roles where it's got a normal function, like it's like you said, VP of finance,
Mhm.
who can also bring to the table how they are going to take this company, do kind of help them do let's call it instead of a digital transformation, like an AI transformation in this department
Mhm.
and get them to the next level. So instead of like them spending hours upon hours with either, in spreadsheets or, doing really complex formulas. Why not have, ChatGPT build your formula for you? Then you copy, paste, and bingo, it's got this complex macro written that can then do a bunch of functions within the spreadsheet. And that may not be in the current person's workflow,
Mhm.
but you could certainly show them how to do that. And they would go, oh my God, look at how much time this is going to save me.
Yeah, it's, like, ironic because it's, like, you still need to hire somebody, a human being,
Oh, yes.
to teach you how to use the AI tool,
Yeah.
um, when it's more of a yeah, when the it's, like, very meta. When the AI tool itself is not it's like the response to just free-for-alling the AI tools not working, or we're gonna buy an AI tool and try to implement it, and it
Right.
doesn't do what we thought it was gonna do.
Or we don't know how to use it.
Case in point, you need somebody now we need experts on the AI tools
Yeah,
within each domain.
for sure.
So it's like creating jobs in a way,
Starting to.
you know, when we thought maybe it was going to eliminate jobs. But the job that's created is then intended to make everybody more productive in their own jobs.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things, and actually I was talking to somebody, I was interviewing somebody for one of these jobs that I've got, and he made such an interesting comment today. He was like, he had a Google background and really impressive background. And what he was saying, with the way he envisions AI to end up working is it's going to eliminate parts of your job,
Mhm.
but it's probably the parts that are really redundant
Mhm.
and boring and allow you to do stuff that is way more interesting. So, like, instead of like you as a finance person doing forecasting and the entire time of forecasting, you're thinking through, like all the different formulas that are created in your Excel sheet to develop the forecast based on the last 5 years and then what's the next 5 year. Instead of just doing all of that work to get it there, maybe it allows you to, with something that would have taken you 6 hours before, maybe it takes you 1 hour.
Mhm.
And then you have the next 5 hours to go, okay, let's step back. What do I do with this forecast? And maybe I compare this forecast to my two biggest competitors and see what they're going to do. And maybe their forecasts are higher. Well, why would they be higher?
Mhm.
Are they seeing something in the market or capitalizing on something that we're not? And allows you to do more thinking and critical thinking about what should we be doing as opposed to I'm spending all my time in, spreadsheets, so I can't have time to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Pretty interesting. So, what made me have like an aha on this was I was on actually a trail run with a good friend of mine who is a chief technology officer. And this conversation started to unfold kind of similarly to other things that I had been hearing out there. So he was talking about all this time that he was spending with different departments, kind of away from his normal job. And I was like, well, what are you doing? And he was like, well, everybody now is starting to use AI or different forms of like ChatGPT, and they're trying to figure out the ways that they can make their department go faster. So in some instances, maybe it's, approving something. Maybe it's a long process of you need all this information to be able to say, yes, okay, this checks all the boxes. Now we approve. What he was saying in this instance is he was able to take all those forms that had been filled out, throw them into ChatGPT, say, create a synopsis, and is there anything missing from the forms that would make us not approve it? So create a synopsis of like saying, here's everything that this is trying to do for approval. And we recommend, yes, we approve this based on the last 10 decisions that you've made,
Mm.
and nothing is missing. This is, go ahead to stamp approved on this thing. So he said that was allowed them to spend 6 less hours on approving something that would have taken a long time to go through all the manual papers,
Yeah.
say everything's done. Yes, we approve. It's like, so that's the time he's spending is now sitting with those teams, helping them understand how to do it. So I started asking him, I was like, well, what if you had somebody else who was like kind of an expert on ChatGPT? What if you just brought them in to just consistently meet with teams on a regular basis
Mhm.
to help them do it? And he was like, absolutely. That's what I need. I need someone to do that so I can go back to doing my job as CTO of this organization. So that's when it started to dawn on me that, now that I've worked on a bunch of these, it is out there. People are actively trying to figure out how do we use this for efficiencies. And it's a pretty cool way to do it. So, um, just moving on to kind of the next one. So, yes, we were just we were just talking about this. So, titles. Like, how do you find these roles? They are not titled.
Well, so let me take a step back and say, like, we started this with saying this is a skill
Yeah.
that's a new skill or whatever. But do does everybody need to try to develop this skill, or how does this apply to everyone? Or is this something that if you have a technology background and you want to kind of focus in this area, like you should go in this direction kind of thing? Like what would be of interest to the listeners here?
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. Here's from like a real world application of what I think you could do with this. Let's say you're looking for a new job, right? You're either leaving your company or you're unemployed and you're looking actively. Adding this into kind of building your skill set, because there's so many people who do a lot of training when they're not working or
Yeah.
when they're looking to, so this is one more thing to be trained on. So really kind of getting to know some of the basics, ins and outs of ChatGPT. How do you, they don't call it query.
Prompt.
How do you prompt? There it
Mhm.
is. There's the new word. How
Yeah.
do you prompt the ChatGPT appropriately? And the best way to do it that I've found and I've had a lot of success with is telling the chat who they are. So you're saying, hey, you're a legal expert that has a lot of knowledge of contracts. Please review this contract, write me a synopsis, and any areas of concern that I should have. So I've
Mhm.
actually done that with ChatGPT a lot of times now. Now, is it as good as a lawyer? No, probably not. Surely a lawyer could find stuff that this thing wasn't going to find, but at least it gives you the basics. So really, so that's how I am using it, or I'm using it for a variety of different things. So I've really found how it works for me. So you as a candidate, if you're looking for a job as a software developer, going into Claude Code and getting an understanding of how could Claude Code help you write code more efficiently and more quickly,
Mhm.
right? How can you do more with less using Claude Code and really getting a solid understanding of that? Or you're an accountant. How could as an accountant and you're preparing for month-end close, let's say there's reconciliation you have between two accounts that takes you a long time. So, is there anything you could be doing with ChatGPT to speed that transaction up? So, kind of looking for areas where you can leverage AI
Mhm.
in making yourself more attractive. Because you walk into an interview as an accountant and say, "Hey, this is great. I'd love to work here. This is a senior accountant role. Oh, by the way, do reconciliations take you guys a long time to do at this company?" And inevitably, it's one of the longest things in close. And they'll say, "Of course." And like, well, guess what I figured out with ChatGPT? How amazing does that candidate then look to the manager? Like,
Mhm.
whoa, this person's done some homework and they can help. They can add value here very, very quickly. So that's
Got
where I
it.
see kind of the real world application for it.
Okay.
But we were talking about titles.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll let you.
Well, we were just talking about titles of like if this was going to be the main focus of your job function was to do this process improvement or something like that. What titles might be out there, and I think it's still in development.
Very
And there's
much.
a lot of, but I just started with like on LinkedIn saying like AI, and I think I put process improvement or something, and I saw everything from like
Right.
AI engineer, and like AI engineer hyphen like specific AI tool. Insert specific AI tool here.
Ah,
Like here's an AI engineer who is specializes in Microsoft Copilot or something like that. So like engineer, I saw business process improvement. I don't know what it was. It was just yeah, it was like business process improvement manager or or
yeah.
like specialist or something like that, but I don't think there is one clear title out there. I think it's just you're gonna have to pay attention to whether or not these jobs are like they have an AI component to them or they're like someone who is a specialist in AI and maybe it's like AI trainer,
hmm
something like
That could
that.
be for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of one of the roles I'm working on now is that
Yeah.
AI trainer. One other thing that I've seen now that's called three times using as a little bit of a barometer whether or not this is happening at this company is phrase digital transformation. A
Mhm.
lot of companies have called this digital transformation because in a sense it is, right? It's a digital transformation. It's just going towards more AI
Mhm.
as opposed to some of the other ways you might digitally transform.
It used
Um,
to be like getting off of paper and
right.
going to digital,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
well,
Or
like medical in records and industry still kind of in that, right?
I think now it's not. I think Epic has really helped them go paperless. Um,
Remember the giant file cabinets in the
oh my
doctor's
gosh,
office
totally.
of all those things? But that was like the first digital transformation is like get all this stuff off of paper
Right. Into
into a digital
software.
format.
Yep,
But now it's a digital transformation of like, or you're not going to use these tools, digital tools instead, but how are we going to use AI within those digital tools? Right.
definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Work,
I
what,
kind of go ahead.
would you say workflow optimizer?
Workflow optimizer.
You had a few titles in here.
And I didn't put those actually. ChatGPT came up with those titles, but then I started looking and I'm like, this is stupid.
The irony. Okay.
The irony of ChatGPT
Yeah.
creating a episode on AI. Yeah, absolutely. So also what I did was kind of created some ideas around if you were in a particular segment,
Oh,
what are you
yeah. We
using
talked about
ChatGPT
this.
for? Yeah. So marketing, helping it create content for you, ad copy, campaign ideas. One of the most important things, and I know this now because I've used ChatGPT, I can't even talk, ChatGPT enough to see how it creates content. I hate the Oxford comma. Like it bugs the heck out of me, and ChatGPT uses it. So,
I'm pro Oxford comma.
but anytime I see someone write me an email and it has a and comma something, I'm like, oh, they wrote this with ChatGPT.
Yeah, but is that a that's a whole other topic.
It
Is it a
is.
good is it an okay thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it
So I think it
how do we
depends.
interpret it? Is it like because it's hard to not automatically think like that's bad that they wrote that in ChatGPT, but it really comes down to how did they write it? Like, did they write their own thing
Right.
and then say ChatGPT just polish this? Like, because
Maybe.
then there's probably I don't know.
Well, and it's like this. So, like when I prompted ChatGPT to create the outline for this podcast, I wrote probably, I don't know, it was probably 20 sentences. It was long, saying all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. And then I asked it to organize it in such a way, and it still created kind of the dumb titles and stuff that I didn't really want to use. Um, but I really prompted it. And I think that's the biggest thing for marketing is you gotta have a lot of prompt in there or else it screams AI. I
Mhm.
mean, it can come up with all kinds of goofy, weird stuff that isn't really great to talk about.
And just from a marketing standpoint, it would be interesting to see what it would do if you put a brand, um, what are they called? It's like basically your brand deck outline of
Like your brand identity.
your brand identity
Yeah.
document into it, if it would hold true to tone, all the stuff that you're trying to do.
I know the answer to that
Okay,
question.
all right.
So, I had ChatGPT help me write content for our website, and I had ChatGPT build out all the outlines for the Too Talented podcast, and I had to do all this Too Talented stuff and all the stuff with Stride staffing, who we are, what we did, everything else, even the logo. I had it create.
Mhm.
So now when I prompt it on anything, it already knows all the content that it created for my website.
Yeah, it
All,
remembers that,
yeah,
yeah.
it remembers it
Mhm,
and it puts it in a lot of the same type of
mhm,
ideas. So, like, so what did I want? I wanted, my language to be confident, slightly irreverent. And so, like, I don't know, just a little bit spicy language wise,
mhm,
because that's how I like to write. So because of that, everything I put out has that same idea. So I think if you do put your brand identity into ChatGPT, it will remember
mm,
and it will create a lot of things. Now, some of the times it uses that exact same voice every time. Well, sometimes one, it's not appropriate. It's not the right thing for that.
mhm,
Like, especially if I'm like needing help writing an email about something, which I don't do very often, but I don't want irreverent language in an email to like a
mhm.
CFO. So you have to kind of control it and kind of make sure you prompt it correctly. But by and large, it creates kind of the same voice.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to do the software one?
Okay, so for a software developer, we've got in here that you could think about this for faster debugging, code generation, general documentation, and then, like you said, gave the example of like, you know, here's how I was able to reduce, time spent on this task, and I could bring that to this job interview, basically, or to this job if I'm going there. So, is that what you were going for on the software development?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think one other thing is from everyone that I've talked to, Claude Code is probably the best coding thing that I know of.
Mm.
Coding GPT. ChatGPT apparently is not great with it. I don't.
Oh, for coding.
Yeah, I've
Mm.
heard Grok is not great with it.
Mm.
Even Claude Code, some of the very best developers have told me that they've developed some issues with it over time
Mhm.
because when it does hallucinate, it's hard for them to figure out where it went off track and then how to bring it back since it's so much code.
Yep.
So there are some issues with it, but definitely Claude Code is what I've heard is the most popular for software development.
Yep. Okay, and then finance and accounting?
Finance and accounting, everything I've heard from finance and accounting people is Copilot. Copilot, Copilot, Copilot,
Mm.
because it's Microsoft. They're already a platform that most companies use. They're already approved within the company as
Mhm.
opposed to some of the other ones. They have a lot more safeguards, it seems like. Now, if you hear anybody talk about Copilot versus using some of the others, a lot of people complain about Copilot, say it's not very powerful, it's prone to error, but it is approved by most companies.
Mhm.
So it's an easy one to just slide in there saying this is our first step in AI. One of the things that I talked to someone at a banking institution that was huge for them was AI governance, putting rails in, making sure people, I don't know, don't put like full customer data into the, chat and, asking it to do stuff. You want to protect things like data. You don't want to put your own personal data in there. So like whenever, like I've helped people do resumes, I like people to take all their contact information off.
Mm.
I don't want their email address in there, phone number. I don't want that stuff living in there because who knows what kind of safety that they're doing. These are new wild west
Mhm.
days and uh, OpenAI, ChatGPT land. So you just want to be people to be really careful. So that'd be another area. If you are a compliance person, how would you treat how would you treat AI governance within your company?
Yeah.
And thinking through really important ways to still be able to use it, but have enough guardrails so it doesn't get misused or bad stuff get thrown in there. Yeah.
Cool.
So kind of going back to what you could do with this, and I think taking this to interviews is really important. Is being able to say as you prep for an interview, as you look at a company, asking them questions about what they have done with AI. And if they haven't done much, or if they've done just a little bit, talking about different ways that you've researched and found that they could. And you could even Google, heck, you go to ChatGPT and ask, how should finance organizations use ChatGPT? I mean, I'm sure it could tell you all kinds of different used cases where you could really lean in and leverage. And that thought provoking, those ideas, I think, are one of the things that helps candidates probably go to the top in terms of who they're going to hire.
And I think probably also feeling out kind of where that company is in terms of their philosophy around AI. Because I would imagine that there's some companies who really are leaning in and want to have people who are, up to speed with the latest and greatest of it. And there might be some companies that don't wanna use it a whole lot, and so just
Right.
knowing that and kinda where the company stands from a philosophical standpoint on it before, yeah, prepping for your own interview, so you can kinda bring that level of, yeah, your own kinda expertise or interest in it. And just for so that because maybe you do wanna use it a lot, and so you don't wanna join a company that's really anti-AI
Right.
going forward, or vice versa.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's important because, and maybe you brush up on all this AI stuff and you're kind of take it or leave it. If you don't ask questions off the bat,
Yeah.
maybe you start pitching all this AI stuff that you can do without asking if they want you to be able to do that. And then bingo, all of a sudden you're not the right candidate because of that.
Yeah.
So asking the questions is important.
Well, you have, like, early internet adoption on here too, and so it makes me think, and I don't know if I know the answer to this, because we were kind of coming into the workforce just around when the internet was becoming prevalent.
Hmm.
And I know that, like, I've worked at companies where you're not allowed to go on the internet early on.
Okay.
Like, you couldn't use it was blocked, like, you
Sure.
couldn't go on the internet. But then, like, worked at companies where they had an anti-social media policy,
Yep.
right? But then have worked at companies where social media is part of the company's
Right.
I have to go look at somebody's social media because that's part of my job.
Right.
So, was there ever anything, I don't know, like, globally or, like, that most companies did around training for, like, how to use the internet that you know of?
Not that I remember. I mean, I think when we joined the workplace, what, like in '04, '05, somewhere in there, the internet had been around just long enough that they'd already done all that stuff, trainings and everything else. So I don't know. I think we probably missed that era,
Are
if I
they
had to
gonna start
guess.
teaching in school? How do you use
AI?
AI in school? Probably,
Probably. I mean, our oldest son already knows very well how to use ChatGPT.
but I don't think he's learning it in school.
No, probably not.
But he does have things like, yeah, like Canva, which I would have never had in school. That's like
Right.
a marketing tool basically, but they have a Canva, they have a student and a school account for like these marketing tools and stuff like that. So it's just interesting that I don't know, is it going to become part of like a curriculum or how much are we going to be guided around or taught how to learn it
Hmm.
in the future
Yeah.
versus just kind of left to your own devices?
Yeah, for sure. Well, as we wrap up, a couple of things to just kind of go back to, making sure when you sit down for an interview, if you're interested in talking about this, the most important thing is asking your team or asking the company, how's your team currently using or leveraging AI
Hmm.
right now? And that answer probably tells you everything you need to know because they'll say, "Oh, we're starting to kind of work with it and we're very interested in it, but we don't know that much about it." Oh man, there's your opening. Or now, we've created all these guardrails and now we can only use Copilot and only little, snippets of Copilot for very specific tasks. Oh, then you know that you've got a company who's not really kind of leaning into it.
Hmm.
But that answer I think is really important. If you hear from them that they are interested in using AI, that I think is early on in the interview, a place for you to be able to step in and say, so over the past 6 months, I've been doing a lot of research and I've figured out how I use AI for my job. Here are some of the things that I can do with it and be pretty succinct about it, talk it through, and then see what kind of questions they come up with. And maybe it's something where they're like, it's too advanced. I don't understand this, and it's almost overwhelming. So maybe you just move on, then you come back to it at a later date, or maybe they, all of a sudden create this huge Q&A about all the things maybe you could do for them, and that's where you can really lean into what you've learned.
Nice.
Yeah. Um.
It's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Um. Cool. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to add on it?
No, I think, it just AI in everything, and it makes me think of running, and there's a whole article right now in Ultra Running Magazine around AI for should you use AI for creating your own training plans? And, this is a little bit of a side tangent, but, I think it's just it's obviously showing up in every facet of life, and the one thing that I took away from that article was, what you were mentioning about earlier that it can hallucinate
Hmm.
and that it is good for certain things, and so one of the biggest things is to know yourself what it's good at doing and what it's not good at doing
Right.
because it cannot it is not it's not a human being, obviously. It cannot take personal it does not have personal experience doing something. It cannot it doesn't have experience feeling what it feels like to be at mile 70 of an
Right.
ultra marathon, and therefore, like, you need to be using it in ways that, are a little bit more, like, concrete in there, just like data driven and like algorithmic and, you know, you have to realize that it cannot think the way a human does and it can't feel and therefore it cannot give you certain, things that you're looking for when it
Right.
comes to yeah.
Well, and you put in there, you were, and it did the same thing for me because you were asking it, help me understand how I should start the Black Canyon 100K.
Well, I was curious how it would have me do my race strategy.
And what did it say for the first 10 miles?
It was like, "Don't go out. You should never see a sub 7 or a sub 8-minute mile on your watch for the first 10 miles."
I think it even used the phrase embarrassingly
Oh,
easy.
yeah, yeah.
And in fact, when I asked it to kind of help me, pace a 100 mile, it used that exact same term,
Embarrassingly easy.
embarrassingly easy. But that's hard to understand. Like even like for me, like what's embarrassingly easy? Is that like
Walking?
walking? Yeah, I mean, is that how you start a race? I mean, not if you plan to do well in it. There's no way embarrassingly easy is the right. But embarrassingly easy also is so subjective that it's hard to understand what the hell it's talking about. Like, what does that mean?
Well, it also yeah, I don't know, I think that my takeaway from that was that it also told me, that I started a bit too fast and that I was fully capable of, running this pace, um, for the entire race, and I had to sit down and say, "I know what running 8:30 pace at mile 50 of this race on this race course feels like, and I don't care how fast I start. That's gonna be hard to do, or how slow I start. That's gonna be hard to do at the end in that section."
Yep.
And those are the things that, you know, if you just get your training plan or your race strategy from ChatGPT, you and you've never been on this course, you don't know.
Right.
And those are the things that a coach can tell you. That section is way rockier than what it looks like on a Strava file or GPS, and therefore it is probably unlikely you're going to be able to run this pace on that, even
Right.
if you started very slow. So it's just it it was a kind of an interesting experiment, and I didn't take its advice fully, so I don't know. I can't say like I tried what it told me to do and this is how it turned out, but um yeah, I do know that it just I feel like you just have to be a little bit skeptical and just like review and think about what it's telling you and then use your own experiences to interpolate whatever
Interpolate.
interpolate whatever whether that's reality, at least when it comes to things like running races and stuff like that.
But I think there's a lot of things that ChatGPT is good at, like helping you build content with enough prompting and writing some easier baseline code where there's a lot of examples out there that it can pull from, or helping you strategize and remind you to do things, or even,
Taking big sets of data and
yeah, and
and
distilling it down.
distilling them,
Yep.
summarizing things, pulling out information. But yeah,
But,
yeah,
like,
for
there's
sure.
so, like, you're saying that's kind of a use case where it's not working all that well, and I very much agree that's not the right strategy, to run that race. But just like that, I tried to have it create a new billing document for me. So I kinda put all the information in. Here's my logo. Here's all the stuff I want it to say, and it was terrible. And it was like the logo was, like, in the middle over the print. Like, I was like, but then I couldn't move it because it saved it as a PDF. It was just a mess. So, like, I ended up scrapping it and creating something different, but I asked it to create kind of like to have it take my website, my LinkedIn profile, all this stuff, and like do a PowerPoint marketing deck of who I am and who Strides is. And it was garbage. I mean, so bad. So bad.
Thought
It
you
was
were
like,
gonna say it was good. Is there
no,
anything good that it's done?
no, it's done lots of good stuff. I mean, it's created amazing content. It created my logo. It created, we used Wix AI to do the website. I mean, there's all kinds of things that it does really well.
Mhm.
There are just some used cases where you look at it and you go, man, you were terrible at this. I'm going to have to find a different way.
Yeah.
So, and I think taking that into you as you're prepping for interviews, trying to use AI to do different functions, you may come up with a function that it sucks at, and you're going to have to do it yourself,
Yeah.
just like the old days.
Just like the old days.
Well, thanks for joining us at Too Talented Podcast. We appreciate it. Give us a like, tell a friend.
Oh, yeah, tell us if you're hearing things about AI in interviews too.
Yes, anything you hear that you want to talk about AI or want to hear us comment on, please leave us a comment. We'd be happy to kind of jump in and do a little Q&A at the end.
Awesome. All right. Have a good one.